Good morning. Kind of ironic for me to be standing here, and here's an auto body repairman leading the service this morning, and me involved in building supplies. You know, we have eight pastors that are members of this church. I am not one, by any means. I was asked outside if I was nervous. I said, no, it's in the Lord's hands. And then you just put the kids up here and try to give me an act like that to follow. You know, give me a break, eh? But anyway, I will be giving my testimony, and I've asked to try to give it a little bit of a message in it. And a lot of you know me as whatever might have been. I mean, I taught Hugh and Greg back there and Dave and a few of you in grade 8 and 9, and I was mayor of this place, and I've had, past, present. I've done a lot of things. I've been a leader all my life. The first part of that was certainly not in a good way at all. I was a leader at a very young age. Some of you have heard that story, but a lot of you haven't. And the purpose of telling you my story today is that you'd know where you stand in your own life. And if you don't know the Lord, then certainly the Lord is willing and open arms to accept you, no matter what your past is like. So that's the reason for my testimony. And I certainly will start off with a little bit of a message that I've often been said, well, you got religion. You're religious. And I say no. Religion is man seeking a small g God. Man seeking something that he could put his trust and faith and so on in. It could be money. It could be power. It could be anything at all. It could be your possessions, whatever it might be. Nothing wrong with possessions. But if that's what you put all of your faith in, then that's wrong. And so I'm not religious. I don't have religion. And when people say that, I try to correct that. But certainly Christianity, there's a big difference. A big difference between religion and Christianity. Christianity is very simple. We make it too complicated at times. It is simply put that you've got God seeking man, and there's another part to that. Man has to respond. Man has to accept. So there's a very simple part. And in John 3:16, we do read where, for God so loved the world, and that world includes you and me and all of your friends and relatives. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever, you and me again, believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. There's a lot in that verse. Another verse that's certainly dear to my heart, in Revelations 3:20. Revelations 3:20 says, Jesus says, and it's Jesus speaking here, behold, I stand at the door and knock. And if any, you or me, again, any man hear my voice and open the door, you have a part to play, and open the door, I will come in to him. So as you see in that verse, it's open to all of us. The Lord would love to have everybody come to know him, and he offers that opportunity to us. My testimony, my story. I jokingly said to some people, you might either start throwing tomatoes. John told me he's going to throw tomatoes. Some of you might throw me out, whatever it might be. But during my lifetime, my early years, I wasn't a goody two-shoe. I didn't know the Lord in an early life like some of you have. I was always a leader. But I didn't answer. I think the Lord spoke to me a lot of times, and I'll highlight a few of those as I talk. The Lord knocked, but I didn't open that door. Too stubborn. Had other things to do, believed in other stuff, and so on. So I didn't open that door. My early life, my father was 50 when I was born. I have a younger brother. But anyway, my father was 50 when I was born, and I think today of being at my age right now and having teenagers for kids. So I wonder why Dad didn't associate with us and didn't do a lot with us. And I think of having a bunch of teenagers around right now at my age, and that might be a different story. But anyway, I did go to church. Went to a Catholic church. Nothing wrong with a lot of the Catholics, for sure. Dad always planned to get to the early one at 6:30. That's where I started getting up early. I used to go to church, the Catholic church. Dad went there because that church service got over in 26 minutes, or he was leaving. And he did leave. So you spent your time there and so on, and then got out of it. I think the Lord may have spoke to me in some of those services. I went to Catholic catechism and so on, and learned some stuff there. I think he probably knocked on my door a few times, but maybe it's a Latin. The services in Latin didn't do much for me at that time, and the Catholic Church certainly used a lot of Latin in that. A very young age. I have a grandson here today that's 13. Younger than him, I was a gang leader. Hard to believe. In St. John, I've been thankful that I brought 4 boys up here in Hillsborough, not in a city like St. John, any city. In St. John, I was a gang leader. I was a pretty good fighter. I guess that's how you get elected to be the leader at times. But then you're a target. I was involved in a lot of stealing, hurt a lot of people along the way. The police knew who to look for when they were looking for something, whatever it might have been. Give you a few examples. One of my good friends and I were down in south end of St. John. We were from the east, of course, wore a jacket, and you were a target. But we were in a 2-story home. Police come to there, a lot of stuff going on. I won't get into all that detail. And we decided we best get out of there, and we're up on the roof. I run and jump. Nice flat roofs down there in south end St. John, quite close together. I jump, make it. My friend Doug jumps. He doesn't make it. Falls, 2 stories. I'm in the hospital. Never smoked in my life. Not sure why. I've tried a lot of other foolishness along the way, but never smoked. But my friend Doug was dying at the time and asked for a cigarette. So I tried to light one for him. That's the closest I ever came to smoking. And couldn't do it. I burned all the end off on it and so on. Never did get it lit. But anyway, I think at that time, losing a good friend that way, probably the Lord was talking to me. But, I was all right. I was going to handle my things myself. Another time, a bunch of us, my friends and I, were in a house. Probably the only time that I lied to my mother. I had a lot of respect for my mother, despite all the things I did and the hurt and damage I did. But I did lie to her about this one, because the house we were in was in sight of my own home. We were in a house, and there was a bunch of fellows that were putting a few bullets to us, figured that they were going to do us in. We didn't have any guns at that time, and trying to think of a way of getting out of this house, that the fellows outside had the guns. We didn't have anything. So we come up with a real bright idea. Light the house on fire. When you're in it, and you're on the 2nd floor, it's probably not a good idea, but it did work. By the time the police fire department came, we were able to have the fellows with the guns decide they better get out of there, and we were able to sneak out and take off. Police knew who it was. They knew who was involved, and come looking for us. We were fortunate. While they had myself and a few others in jail, that a bunch of the girls, our gang consisted of both male and female. They didn't have any of the females in the jail at the time, so the girls went out and lit a few bus shacks on fire, and they figured it couldn't have been us that lit the house, so we got off. As I mentioned, I used to be a really good fighter one time, hard to believe, but anyway. I was jokingly tell some people here, I know Donna's mentioned about thankful that the kids don't have my nose, and I said, well, they'd have to break it at least 3 times to have it, but anyway. Good fighter or not, there's times when somebody's always better. Numbers of people certainly take their toll. There's a few occasions where we had quite a number against us. When you date a girl from South End, you're from the East End. It's not a real bright idea, but whatever. So over one time we were out in the wrong territory and got into a club. went into a boys and girls club, actually. And there was a bunch of them there putting the boots to us. There's only 2 of us, and there's about 20 of them. I don't care how good you are at fighting. You're not going to stand up too long. And I jokingly said to somebody here that I had concussion and ribs broke, nose broke, and all this. And I mentioned here last week to somebody that I remember a girl breaking my ribs. You know, I'm bragging about being a good fighter, and yet I remember one time when a bunch of them had me down on the floor, and I watched this girl come off from a table up above with both feet and land on my chest and broke a few extra ribs there. But that Boys and Girls Club, I went back to it later. Ended up leading it. Hard to believe, but anyway, here it was, the one that I'd taken quite a beating in, and but I became their leader after that. Didn't answer the door again. You know, I mean, I think the Lord was knocking, but I didn't answer. We used to do a lot of things along the way that had a lot of friends that were killed or in prison. Lost numerous friends along the way. Another knock, probably. In grade 11, a lot of the people thought it was a good thing. I mean, I didn't have any trouble in school, but I thought the teachers used to like me a lot because they kept me every night, type of thing. And but anyway, as a joke, they said, you know, it'd be good to run you for student council. There's 216 people in the graduating class, so it's a big school. And so anyway, they decided I should run for president of student council. You know, this is a pretty good joke. But anyway, I run. Best year I ever had. One of the best years I ever had, and there's no question. Still didn't come to know the Lord. Still didn't answer that knock. It was a great year. Just before graduation class, I was one of these many that you hear about in parties, and things going on, and accidents happen. Police were chasing us. There was 5 of us in a 396 Chev. Somebody was talking about a Ford earlier today. But anyway, 5 of us in this car. We were half a mile ahead of the police that were chasing us, and we went off the road. Quite a steep bank, 300 feet down, end over end, and I was not in great shape. Although I got out, grabbed one of the fellows and said, let's get out of here before the cops get us. We ran quite a little ways, and that was it. It's the last I remember for several days. I was told I'd never walk again. 18, 19 years old, you know, you're never going to walk again. Jay and I have had this discussion along the way. It's quite a blow to the system. You would think that thick head of mine that I might have answered then, that, you know, maybe the Lord was trying to tell me something, but I didn't. I had a choice: operate, do 8.5 hours of surgery on nerves and things like that, remove 3 discs, shorten me up 1/2 inch, and whatever, but not a lot of choice at that age, so I did that, and I've been thankful all along. I'm thankful anything that I can do any day, and I'm thankful that I can certainly work for the Lord in this building. Went to Teachers College, was on the student council there. Thought I was growing up. Should have answered the door. I come to Hillsborough 44 years ago. I came here to teach for 1 year. There was no shop at that time. And I said, well, that sounds good. Go down there. Nice challenge. Go down there and teach for a year. 44 years later, I'm still here. I have one regret from teaching, and that is that I wasn't a Christian at the time. I look at Greg Weir. I look at Dave Hawks. I look at Hugh here, Greg Bennett, Conrad Steves, and any number. There's a lot of them that I taught over the 3 years I taught shop here. I regret that I wasn't a Christian, because I think, what could I have done to help some people along the way? But I wasn't. Met Donna, so on. That still didn't allow me to open the door. President of the Kiwanis Club. Met some good people there. Hank Brom, Frank Tower. Certainly good people that were good men, certainly led their way of life, and I learned a lot from them. Still too stubborn to answer the knock. Got married in a church wedding. Had 2 boys born. Somebody's going to say, you're getting old and forgetful, Jim. I got 4, I know. But 2 were born before I became a Christian. In May, in a service similar to this, 1979, I decided to let go of those white knuckles on the back of the pew. We don't have pews here right now. And I answered that knock. I allowed certainly the Lord into my heart. It's not always easy to do that, but after getting knocked on so many times, it's about time I did. My life changed at that time. I'm not perfect, a long ways from it. But I certainly have tried. I realized one big thing that's on there now. God is not here for me to use, slightly different on your version on the screen. God's not here for me to use, but I am here for Him to use. And I would hope that that's a lot of our prayers as we think that. Let's not forget that. We're here for the Lord to use. I've held a lot of positions along the way. The latest one, certainly this building project. Chairing this building project allowed me to grow up quite a bit in the Lord's work. I look here beside me. This cross that's here, and I realize the lights are bright and some of you may not be able to see it, but it's a bunch of nails nailed into a cross. We had given everybody 365 nails. A nail to pray every day. Bring your nails back to the church each Sunday and whatever, but it was to keep people involved. It was through the Lord's work, not Jim Reid's by any means, that this church is here today, this building. And it is just a building. This is just a building, a means to be used for the Lord's work. Hallelujah for last week. That's what this building is here for. Seeing those kids, seeing what happened here last week. I've said to a number of them, use it. You don't have to abuse it. Use it. And if we wear it out by having hundreds and hundreds of more kids here, we'll build another one. Or whatever we got to do. So the church, this building, you are the church. The people here are the church, not this building. It's to be used for the Lord's work, and I encourage that. My heart goes out to those that don't know the Lord. You're missing out. I look at my family. I have 4 boys. I have 4 beautiful daughter-in-laws I love dearly, and the boys too. I have 10 grandchildren. Not sure how that happened. But anyway, Archie, Donna's father, always had the answer to that. It all started with one kiss. So the youth here watch that first kiss. But anyway, my prayer is for my family to someday to see them all come to know the Lord. I'm concerned for my friends. I'm concerned for people I've worked with over the years. I'm concerned with the people in Hillsborough here, our neighbors and so on. We have a lot of work to do. The Lord's provided. The Lord has provided through His help, not anybody here to build this church, this facility. It's a beacon, and we're to use it for His glory. Coming to my closing here. How do I live with my past and all the things I did? How do I live with myself for the damage that I did over the years? And the only answer to that is that Jesus died for my sins, and He died for yours. I've been forgiven. You have been forgiven. I don't care what you've done, how bad you think you might have been. Then certainly the Lord is ready and willing to accept you. Read 1 John 2:2 sometime you get a chance. I'll skip a part here just due to time, but down in Living Waters a few years ago, there was a singer there, big man, real big man. His name, he called himself Big Mac. He had a little tiny wife and called her Quarter Pounder. He sang a song. This is probably, I don't know, Donna probably remembers better than I do, 30 years ago probably or something. His song was, I'm not what I want to be. I'm not what I'm going to be. But thank God, I'm not what I was. So when you think of that, I'm not what I want to be. I'm not what I'm going to be. Because the Lord's not done with any of us yet. But thank God that I'm not what I was. I'm thankful to come from where I've come from as we continue to grow. So I asked you, has God been knocking on your door? Your door. Think about it. How many times has he knocked on your door? Knocked way too many on mine before I answered. Will he ever stop knocking on your door? So has God been knocking on your door? Have you answered yet? Don't you think now is the time to open that door? God bless all of you, and I'm going to ask Hugh to come back, Brother Hugh, and close. Thank you.